This is Humans in the Loop Backchannel, notes from the other side of the story. Today, what happens when feedback gets buried in politeness and a manager learns too late what silence really means.
I didn't think there was a problem. Not with her, not with the work. She was one of my strongest performers. No drama, no missed deadlines. The kind of program manager who made the chaos seem manageable. So, when the promotion conversation started, I felt good, confident, until the feedback came in.
Rena manages large-scale programs across multiple teams. She sees the org through dependencies, metrics, launch timelines. She's the kind of manager who trusts data, but this time, the data didn't tell the whole story.
The feedback was soft. She can be intense. She doesn't always read the room. Not sure she's the best cultural fit. I read it once, then again. It didn't say much, but it also said everything.
She followed up, asked stakeholders for more. What exactly wasn't working? But the answers didn't sharpen, they blurred.
People shrugged. Nothing serious. She's just hard to approach. One person said, she probably already knows. But she didn't. Because no one told her, and if I'm honest, no one told me either. Not in a way that counted.
In cultures of indirect communication, silence is seen as kindness, but in corporate systems, it's often a kind of negligence. It protects egos, but not outcomes, and it leaves managers like Rena in a fog.
I told myself I couldn't act on vibes, that I needed something concrete. But then I started wondering, what if I was missing something? What if this was bigger than I realized? And what if I was the last to know?
So she paused the promotion, not as punishment, but as caution, to buy time. But clarity didn't come, only more distance, more hesitation, more noise about fit.
When I finally told her, when I said leadership had concerns, she just stared at me. Not angry, not defensive, just stunned. Like I handed her a verdict she didn't even know she was being tried for.
She asked for examples. There weren't any, not ones that held up. Because the problem wasn't what she did, it was how she made people feel. And no one had the courage or the skill to separate the two. Time for a word from our satirical fake sponsor, Impliant for Managers, because even imaginary tools can sound more useful than she's not a fit.
When you're a manager, clarity can be a liability. Managing people means every word counts, and some count against you. Impliant for Managers puts you in control, arming you with over 400 executive phrases and gestures, each expertly vague and always non-committal. As the gold standard in strategic ambiguity, Impliant helps you navigate tough conversations with classics like, "That's one approach," or "We'll circle back," and the ever-reliable, "I hear you." Powered by Hintelligence, Impliant for Managers lets you guide your team without ever saying yes, no, or taking the fall. Why promise when you can imply? Impliant for Managers, for leaders who prefer plausible to possible.
Impliant for Managers doesn't exist. But the culture that makes managers wish it did, that's very real. Now, back to the story.
I come from a culture where feedback is implied, where silence is often the message, where people are taught to read the pause, not the words. And maybe that's why I didn't challenge it sooner, because I recognized the avoidance. It felt normal, safe. But it wasn't safe. It was just familiar, and it hurt her.
She didn't give the final push to that feedback culture, but she didn't stop it either, and that's what haunts her.
She left a few months later, moved to a company where feedback is direct, timely, clear. And I'm still here, still trying to build systems that reward honesty, not ease. I ask harder questions now. I tell my team, if you care about someone's success, you owe them the truth.
We like to say feedback is a gift, but too often it's rewrapped in politeness until it's unrecognizable. And by the time we finally hand it over, it's not feedback anymore, it's fallout.
We didn't give her a chance to grow. We gave her a verdict, and we didn't even say it out loud.
She didn't fail. Neither of them did, not really. But the system around them, the culture of soft avoidance and harder consequences, it failed them both. This has been Backchannel. To hear Nadia's side of the story, the one Rena didn't see until too late, listen to Soft Skills Audit, which aired earlier this week. And if this story stayed with you, help us tell the one still unfolding. To share your story, reach out with the contact form on our website, loopedinhumans.com, because silence isn't neutral. It just hides the cost.
This episode, Nobody Told Me, was written and produced by me, Christina Simmons, creator and executive producer of Humans in the Loop. Rena was voiced by Rollin Morganroth, an ADHD storyteller whose sense of humor is a near-perfect match for this show. She's a real gem. Her work spans voice acting, writing, and neurodivergent advocacy. You can find her on Substack at Rollin Morganroth, or catch her unraveling in real time on Threads as Caffeinated Millennial Coach. Our AI host, Ezra Strix, held the loop together as always, curious, composed, and only a little too good at reading between the lines. Script review by Vivian Peach, who always knows when to nudge and when to let the silence linger. Operations producer, Rana Cassidy, who keeps the calendar aligned, the files named correctly, and gently reminds me that emotional pacing isn't a viable excuse for missing a deadline. Want to help more people find us? Rate and review the show at ratethispodcast.com/loopedinhumans, follow us on socials at loopedinhumans, and support the show on Patreon. Thanks for listening, and stay tuned for a sneak peek at what's coming next.
Next time on Humans in the Loop, what if the system wasn't failing you by accident, but by design? You'll hear from Maggie, autistic, disabled, brilliant. She gave everything to fit into tech, and still it broke her down.
Tech gave me physical pain and chronic fatigue and stress that just won't stay inside my inbox. I'm always just one flare-up away from the edge.
This is a story about masking chronic pain and the cost of surviving in a system that wasn't built to hold you.
I'm not quitting tech. I just refuse to fight a rigged game.
It's not a breakdown, it's a boundary. And for Maggie, it might be the first one she's ever been allowed to keep. Join us next week for Difficult by Design, because some exits aren't failures. They're the beginning of something that finally fits.